Hello, Par Mostad, the first name I saw. Welcome, everyone. How we doing today? Welcome to another fun Rokoko webinar. We're gonna, usually we let people kind of trickle in for the first 5 minutes, because, 5 minutes, give or take, that's allowable. Hello, Anna Marsh, Carlos Diaz, Daniel, Depeche, Wad. I'm gonna butcher some names if I call out names. It's just what's gonna happen. But yeah, good to see everyone. The chat is open. We're gonna launch a little poll maybe while we wait for everyone to come on in. We got a couple fun polls we'll launch during this. Where's everyone located? Let's get some continental polling going. And welcome everyone who's still coming in. We're just letting people trickle in. It's kind of what we do for the first 5 minutes, so we'll let people find their way. No Europe. What time is it? It's late. It's a little late. Oh, there is no Europe. Oh no. Well, this is from the European team, so I feel like we should just leave this poll up, and that's Nicholas Warner's fault. All you Europeans out there can direct your ire towards him. I'm seeing a lot of Europe in the chat, so Europe's definitely here. We value you, Europe. So our home base is in Denmark. We're a European company, really. So, Nicholas Warner. It's his bad. He's freaking out on Slack right now. Hello to people who are still trickling in. We're going to give it a couple more minutes. We have a flawed poll going without Europe. Looks like a lot of people from North America. We got people from all over the place. Antarctica, wow. Big mocap community out there in Antarctica. So yeah, while people trickle in, I'll just mention, we have some announcements before we'll get started, but we do a live YouTube live stream every Thursdays at 11 a.m. PST. And I'm always there for about an hour or 2 hours, depending on what we get into, and it's a lot of fun. You can ask questions about Rokoko, you can ask questions about other software. It's just a good time, and it's a fun way to see the mocap suit in action. If we're going to be doing a live demo today, but if you want to see some more, stop by the live stream. It's a lot of fun. We do free mocap. We make free mocap if people have requests and stuff, so it's a blast. Okay, we're going to give it another minute, and then we're going to get started. Excited. Good to see everyone. Miriam, Quentin from France. And again, I'll mention this again once we get started, but we have a Q&A panel down there at the bottom of your Zoom UI, you should see. So if you have questions for the Q&A at the end of the webinar, you can put them in there. We do have a live chat going. We have Rokokians in the live chat. But if for the questions that I'll be looking at, put them in the Q&A at the end. Okay, we're just going to give it 30 more seconds, and then we're going to get started. Can we crack 300? Kyle, couple Kyles, seen a couple Kyles. Kevin, Lenny, Lizzie, Matt, Mrs. Nightmare, not Miss Nightmare, Mrs. Nightmare in the chat. What's going on? Great name. This is going to be a lot of fun. Okay, I think we're going to kind of get started now. Yeah, 5 minutes. So again, welcome everyone to this webinar, this Rokoko webinar. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing a live demo, and we're also going to be really focusing on movement because we just released a great new firmware update for our suit that improved the performance a lot. So we're going to be going through a lot of fun stuff today. Let's take a quick look at what we're going to be talking about. So I'm just going to give a very brief introduction to who we are, Rokoko hardware and software. Some of you may know this already, some of you may not, but I'm going to keep it brief. We'll just kind of do an overview of what we do, right? Then we're going to get into a live demonstration, which will be a lot of fun. I'm going to be jumping into a suit. You'll notice I'm not in a suit right now. That's because I think one of the fun parts is showing how easy it is to get into the suit. So I got my suit right behind me, ready to go. We'll jump in the suit, make some motion capture. We'll also go through how to record and clean up your motion capture. And then we'll go into Blender and Unreal, get that mocap onto some characters. We have a free project file that we're going to be emailing to everyone that we're going to be using today. And then we're going to do a Q&A, and we have a raffle. Everyone who joined the webinar is automatically entered into the raffle for some smart gloves. Before we get into all of that, I do have a couple of exciting announcements. One of which is that in our script it says a year, but it's been years of shipping delays for everyone around the globe, not just us, because of COVID and supply chain issues. We now have stock, and we are shipping as soon as you put in your orders. So to celebrate this, everyone who is in this webinar can get up to 20% discount on anything from Rokoko.com, including the bundles, discounts that we already have for bundles. So if you buy a suit and gloves together, there's already a bundle price for that. This is 20% off that as well. So that's for everyone in the webinar, except it's only good for the first 50 orders. So the code is webinar20. We'll be emailing this to everyone as well. So if you're thinking about jumping into Rokoko, it's a great time because we, 20% off. And we do discounts all the time. And so check our Instagram, any contests that we run, webinars usually, join them. We have discounts, and it's a great way to knock some bucks off your mocap hardware. The offline recording of this will be available on YouTube. So if you want to go over it again, it'll be there. It'll also be emailed out to everyone. We have an open chat. As I said, we have Rokokians in the chat, and they'll be answering questions. But for the Q&A at the end of the webinar, put it in the Q&A dialogue that should be at the bottom of your Zoom window. That list is what I'll be addressing as much as we can, depending on how many questions we have. And yeah, we'll launch some fun polls as we get started. But, besides that, we're kind of going to jump into it. So we'll start with just a very brief overview of who we are at Rokoko. So let's do it. So we make motion capture hardware and software. As you probably already know, our flagship product is the Smartsuit Pro 2. This is an inertial motion capture suit. I got one hanging behind me here. That means that it doesn't require cameras or anything like that, or a big space. All you need is a Wi-Fi network and the suit and a generic battery, right? And so kind of our whole goal with the suit is to make it as easy as possible for someone on their own to record really high quality motion capture. And this is our main motion capture kind of product, right? The suit, which I'll be jumping into in a second. We also make Smartgloves. So these are amazing, incredible, very affordable as well relative to the industry, right? Very accurate. And once you start doing adding finger and hand motion capture to body motion capture, you start to understand just how much emotion we have in our hands, right? So we also make the gloves. It all integrates together. They just plug into the suit, powered by the same battery. And, again, you just need a Wi-Fi network and you can start recording. We also have a facial motion capture solution. This runs off of an iPhone 10 or higher. It's great. We're going to be playing with it in a second, and it's a great kind of, that kind of takes our whole solution to full performance capture, as we call it, which is body, hands, and facial motion capture. So you can do, with our tools. On the software side, software is super important to our motion capture. It is we have a free program called Rokoko Studio. You can go download it right now. It comes with sample motion capture files, so you can, check out the quality. But we do a lot of work on the back end in the software to make the motion capture as good as possible. And so this is a really essential part of our whole ecosystem. And in that vein, we actually just released a free motion capture tool called Rokoko Video, which you just need a browser to create motion capture with. And we have tutorials on all of these things on our YouTube channel. We had an amazing contest using Rokoko Video, this free AI motion capture tool last month. And you can create some really fun, it's kind of more intro level, but you can still get some really incredible results with this free AI motion capture tool. So that's kind of the package, right? Here you can see some of our, our tool in use. And I think the important thing to know about us is that we're a real ecosystem, right? We spent 2 years creating our studio software from scratch. And and we just took it out of beta. It just got released into public. And the whole reason that we did that, we spent a ton of effort and time on this back-end software solution, was because we can now start pushing improvements to the rest of our hardware from the software side. So we just released this incredible firmware update for our sensors. From our testing, it's a 24-25% increase in magnetic stabilization, or in resisting magnetic interference. You can find out more about the science on our YouTube channel, where we have a video about it. But really exciting that's kind of the goal with our whole system, right? Is that it's not just a piece of hardware, it's an evolving piece of hardware, right? It's going to continue to get better. And especially with our new software, we can push these new updates, which is really exciting. Okay. So the last thing we'll do before we actually jump into a suit is, and my video is going to freeze here for a second, of course. Let me just, come on. I know you want to come back, baby. Even if I don't come back. But this is kind of the landscape that we exist in, right? So we are an inertial motion capture tool, much like Noidum or XSense, right? So these are tools that don't require cameras or anything else. They're based on sensors that are just in the suit. We are more affordable than the others. Our tool is great for a one-man army or smaller studios or something like that. And then the price goes up and you get incremental increases in quality, right? Other types of motion capture you might have heard of are computer vision motion capture. So this is where you use either a camera or multiple cameras to just capture actors in a scene. Some advantages of this is that you don't have a mocap suit. Disadvantages are that it's, you have to rely on a lot of AI cloud computing to do everything. So you lose some control, and then it can be expensive. Move.ai has a professional solution that is more expensive. They just released a more user-friendly one, but it can be expensive, right? It's because it's always subscription-based. And then at the top end, you have optical volumes. These are very expensive volumes that really are just require a ton of people, a ton of time, but that's what you see in Marvel, right? So that's the very tippy top. So we kind of sit in the very, and if I jump back here, okay, there we go. So yeah, our whole deal is we essentially fit into this little niche where we are affordable to use, easy to use. We've made it, as easy for a single contributor to make motion capture, and that's our whole deal, really. So hopefully that was brief. We're going to jump into a live demo right now. So let's do it. So I'm going to share my screen, actually, and we are going to open up Rokoko Studio, and let me just share this guy. Okay, so hopefully you should still be able to see me. But here I've opened up Rokoko Studio. Again, this is our free motion capture software. So even if you don't have a suit or any other hardware, you can still open up Rokoko Studio, download it. It's free. It comes with these sample scenes where you can play with our motion capture, check out the quality and everything. And then also you can get access to our motion library. So this is another big part of our software. We have a motion capture marketplace, again, with a bunch of free assets, but then also assets that you can purchase. And these are great if you're kind of tired of Mixmo and seeing the same thing over and over again. You can come and get some new assets. And again, you can just type in free and kind of dip your toes in. And we have tutorials about all of these features on our YouTube channel. But that being said, let's jump in and make some motion capture. So I'm just going to open up this scene. And again, hopefully you can still see me. But I'm going to jump in. But I'm going to jump in my suit at this point. And so, again, I like to start these things not in the suit so you can see just how quick and easy it is to actually, jump in. So someone can start the clock on me. Usually if I'm not jabbering to a live stream, it takes me about, 60 seconds, which is fantastic, right? Because it means there's such a low barrier to me actually jumping in and just making motion capture, right? Okay, so we're going to get in. And also, I am just wearing my clothes. Usually, You can put on some yoga pants or like just some athletic shorts or something like that. But you can also throw a suit over normal, everyday clothes, which is what I'm doing right now. Okay, so I'm just going to get my sensors on. There we go, zip up. I don't know if anyone had the clock on that, but it was probably about a minute. And then I'm going to roll up my sleeves and just throw on my gloves. And so again, the great thing about these gloves is that they don't require like another battery or anything like that. They just plug directly into your suit. And then you use one generic battery pack to power the whole thing, right? And again, there's no cameras in here that I'm using for this. It's just working off my Wi-Fi router, which is in the corner of my room. Because this system is Wi-Fi based, it's really important that you have a strong Wi-Fi network when you're actually using the suit, right? Because everything is going over that network. So the stronger your Wi-Fi signal, I'm going to throw on my head sensor here, last thing. But the stronger your Wi-Fi signal, the better fidelity your motion capture is going to be, right? Okay, there we go. Boom. I got green on my gloves. You can see that I've already paired everything before. And this is it. I just open up Rokoko Studio and I'm kind of ready to rock. I am just gotta hide this. There we go. We have one. I see this. Stop. There we go. So we have one calibration pose. Takes about 3 seconds, so I'll do it right now. There we go. It's called a straight pose. And that's it. Boom. We are up and running, ready to record some motion capture. So again, if I'm not talking through this all, usually this takes about 60 seconds to jump in and just start creating, right? And so if you're curious about what this tech can be used for, we have customers who work in a lot in indie film for visual effects or things like that. A lot of game dev, a lot of commercial work being done, for social and things like that. So you can kind of use this in a variety of different things, right? We have like news networks that have used it to animate characters like live on screen. And so the pretty much, this can be used for any use case where you need to generate digital motion, right, from an actor. Okay, so we can go ahead and start recording some stuff. But before we do that, actually, we might turn on our facial motion capture solution. And again, hopefully you can see my camera. And so you can see me doing, all these motions in real time. So if I grab my iPhone here, I'm just going to turn it on. And all I need to do is make sure I'm on the same Wi-Fi network as my suit and everything else. And you can see as soon as I opened up this app, we actually got this Sam's iPhone thing that popped up right here. And if I just hit allow on the app and turn on facial capture and add it to my character, here we go. And so I have, we have a lot of customers who also do things like VTubing or virtual YouTubing, where you pilot a digital character on a live stream or something like that. And this is a fantastic solution for doing that, right? I can just mount my iPhone right on my desk and game or whatever it is, and have a digital character be piloted in real time. And you can also get some really, this is a more simple version of facial motion capture than you'll see in Marvel, right? Or something like that. This is in the iPhone 10. But that being said, you can get some really fantastically kind of subtle performances out of this technology, I think, which is amazing, right? And then of course, the caveat to all of this is just how amazing it is that this is doable at all by an individual contributor where, 15 years ago, this would have cost $100,000, or whatever, or more, a dedicated team of like scientists helping you develop the tech. And now it's reached a point where it's really accessible, right? And that's kind of where we slot in. Okay, so we are going to record some motion capture now, and we're going to do a little running around and a little jumping onto this little stool that I have here to demonstrate some elevation tracking. And then we will take that motion capture and export it out to Blender and Unreal and take a very quick look at those workflows. And again, I'm going to remove my face because it kind of freezes in the last position you got there. But yeah, so that'll be really fun. And again, we have a free project file we're going to be giving out to everyone that has characters, free Paragon characters from the Epic Store already set up for motion capture. Okay, so I'm just going to check the chat here, make sure that everything is looking good before we get started. Okay, so let's record something. So I'm going to do a calibration pose. I normally do them, as often as I can, really. We recommend doing them at least every 5 minutes or so. But the more often, they're so quick and easy to do. And the more often you do them, the better accuracy your mocap is. Because once you do a calibration pose with all inertial motion capture, that kind of starts the clock on a magnetic microdrift, which will eventually accumulate and you'll want to calibrate again, right? And so that's true of all kind of inertial motion capture. Again, you don't have to do it before every recording. I just do because it doesn't hurt and it's so easy to do. So let's record something and I'll kind of show you the process of cleaning it up and exporting it out. And so we'll do one where I'm just kind of moving around, and then we'll do one that is elevation tracking. So I'm going to hit record. And the other great thing about our software now is we just added this timer on the record button. So I can hit record and then kind of get into position. And it makes it really easy. I'm actually going to also turn off my background blur because I want you all to be able to see in here. So let's do this. Okay, and we'll hit record. Let's make some motion capture. You never know what's going to come out once you hit record, and so you just got to flow with it. The suit records, the Smartsuit Pro 2 will record at up to 200 frames a second. So you can really move around and still get fantastic performance. You can see this is pretty much a perfect take from the jump. And again, so much of this, not so much of it, but a lot of this, not even a lot, but the 24% increase in quality that we recently pushed to the suits, it really improved things so much because it did 24% kind of right at these spots where we needed, just a little bit of help to really make this incredible. This mocap is more accurate than it's ever been, and so it's great. So if we go through kind of the mechanics here. Okay, and I'm seeing that people are asking about how the head is controlled. So I have a head sensor that's just on here as well. I just wear the beanie because the headband look is kind of silly. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. So you can see here is the clip we just recorded. We can jump back into it. And if we just go through the mechanics of this really quickly, I can show you kind of how this works on the software side. So you can see in the scene here that we have visualized the foot contacts with the ground. And you can see, we have green for the left foot and we have blue for the right foot. And down here, we have every time our foot is on the ground in our timeline. And so if these keyframes are incorrect, and which will often happen, you might have small inconsistencies or larger ones in the keyframes here after you do recording, especially if you're running around a lot or you have poor Wi-Fi signal, for instance. Thankfully, though, you can fix all that. So if we kind of manufacture a bad recording here by extending out this keyframe, I jumped here, right? But now the software thinks my foot was on the ground. This would be very typical. You might get something like this from your suit, and it's really easy to fix, right? You would just adjust this keyframe and it looks great. And yeah, we're talking about trackers and where it goes in the head, and I would say tracker on the back of the head is the way that I do it. So that's great. So that's kind of that's the whole workflow. And now we could rename this run-in or crazy motions and we could export it out. But before we do that, let's go and I want to show you a couple more things. One is that we have this mode called treadmill mode. And so if we go into our live filters, you can see this little wand up here, and we turn on treadmill, this will lock our character into the origin of the scene. And so no matter where I translate, right, it doesn't matter. We're going to stay locked in the center of our scene. And so this is a great way to generate things like walk cycles. In fact, let's make a walk cycle right now, and we'll kind of show you how cool that is. So I'm going to do another calibration. You know, I typically do these calibrations because, again, it takes 3 seconds, and it just means I'm going to get slightly better motion capture. So why not? Boom. And then we'll hit record. We'll do a little walk cycle. Okay, so we take a look at that. I could do an Ace Ventura walk cycle. That sounds like fun. We might keep moving though. But here we go. Look at this. And so you can see how useful this could be, you know, when it comes to gaming or things like that. Super easy to create custom motion capture. And then, you know, you could take this into Blender or whatever it is, easily turn this into a walk cycle. We're going to actually have a tutorial coming out soon about how to do that. We just had a live stream about that. But this is another great feature of Rokoko Studio. So I'm going to rename this and call this walk cycle. We could also pull in the in and out points, right? We wanted to see the walk cycle. It's not going to blend perfectly, but we could kind of see the cycle this way. And we could time this up and then blend the animation so we have a real looping walk cycle. So the last thing that I want to play with before we jump into Blender and Unreal is going to be elevation tracking. So I'm going to change my view here. If I go here, I can change my view back to the front. I'm going to do another calibration pose. Ooh, I'm going to turn off treadmill because we don't want that. Do a calibration pose because it doesn't hurt. And then I've got a small stool here, and I'm going to show you how you can do things like going up and down stairs or jumping onto obstacles or things like that. And this was another firmware update that we pushed to the Rokoko Smartsuit Pro 2 because we built this whole backend for our new version of our software, right? Again, the whole goal with our ecosystem is that all of these products continue to improve as we can do things in the software and, you know, tricks to make the motion capture better. So elevation tracking was another example of this, right? So I've got this stool. It's about 20 inches high, which will matter. You know, it helps to know the height that we're going to be translating. But let's do a recording, and we'll jump on the stool. Okay. Excellent acting again. I'm sure we can all agree. So you could see there that we didn't actually jump up on the stool while we were recording, right? We could turn on elevation tracking so that we could see those changes happening live, but I just prefer to do it in post because it's always going to require a little bit of tweaking. So again, you can see that we jumped on the stool right here, but look, we are not going on a stool. It's not reading that translation in Y, right, up, vertically. So if we go and we turn on treadmill mode, and we set, oh, not treadmill mode, I'm sorry, elevation tracking mode, and we set the inches to 20. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Basically, what that is the each, not iteration, but each amount, gradient, that you will be translating. So if you're going up a set of stairs, most stairs are a standard height, you would put in that height and it would know, okay, every time a foot raised up by that amount of height move the character up. And you can see now, like if we play this back, look at this. Look at what we got. A beautiful jump up on a platform. And look, and so here, we just need to do a little bit cleanup for the jump down, because you can see right here in the track, it's saying, okay, my foot is hitting the ground right here. But we know the foot doesn't hit the ground until a little bit later. And if we do that, look, it takes 5 seconds to clean this up to a point where it just looks fantastic. So that is elevation tracking, and another great example of this kind of ecosystem mindset that we have, right? Where these are not static products. These are all products that are going to continue to get better. And, we've all seen the incredible advances in AI for motion capture. We have an eye on all of that, right? We're always working on using the new tech to improve our tools. So I'm going to call this elevation tracking. And now we're going to go and export this mocap out, and we're going to jump into Blender and Unreal and have some fun there. We can jump back in the suit later, and I'm seeing just in the chat really quickly, this is a great point. Oh, it looks like we might need to, sometimes you just got to repower the suit. But can you touch your feet, shoulders, and knees? And I will do that. And the reason this is such a good point is because I'm not going to touch my feet, knees, and shoulders. This is inertial motion capture. So as opposed to volume motion capture like Marvel, what's happening there is that the cameras that are the red cameras, the 50 reds that they have that are pointing in towards the actors, they are tracking the actors' limbs in actual space. They know where each thing is relative in actual space, right? They have the actual position of the limb because there's a ball and the camera knows how it moves. With inertial motion tracking, with XNs, with perception, with us, with all these inertial tools, mocap, it's not the sensors don't know where they are in space. So if I touch my head or if I clap, this is doing pretty good, but oftentimes here, my hands are on my hips, they're not on my character's hips. And that's because this is an approximation of your movements, right? So in that slide that I showed earlier about competitors and the landscape, there was something that said cleanup required, and everyone was yes. And that's because motion capture will always require cleanup. So our goal is not to get to 100%. And really, with no inertial mocap tool, are you going to get to 100%? The goal is to get you to a point where it's way easier than if you'd hand keyed it, right? That's kind of the goal of what we're trying to do. So if I touch hips, if I touch, this is okay. And this could be made a little bit better by maybe tweaking some of the measurements of my character. But it's really important to understand that with inertial motion capture, there are limitations. And that's not a bad thing because there are also advantages, right? It's much more affordable. It can be operated by one person. It's always a give and take. And our niche is not 100%. You're never going to have to touch that motion capture. No, our goal is to make it so that it's super easy for you to get a AAA quality with just a little bit of effort on the back end if you need it, or to get live assets that you could put on Instagram right now. That's kind of just the state of motion capture. It will always require a little cleanup. So it's a great question, and I like it when people bring that up because I like talking about the limitations of the suit because you want to play within the sandbox of what the suit does well. Okay, spiel over. Let's jump into Blender and have some fun. So I'm going to take these 3 assets that we created, and we are going to export them. If I click them all, I can export them all at once. So when we're exporting, we can export a BVH or an FBX. I'm going to export with the body mesh because we might bring these into Unreal. And then at 30 frames a second, and I'll export. And again, we have tutorials on all of this. If you're ever curious about knowing this workflow more, check out our YouTube channel. We kind of cover all of these things in detail. So I'm actually going to unplug my suit right now. Take off my gloves because we are getting into the software part. And I might actually unzip too. We'll just do this guy. And boom, our mocap is exported. Sometimes I just like to unzip and then I'll tie the arms around my waist, right? Yeah, so link will be sent tomorrow. I'm seeing a little things in the chat as I can, but yes, so we should be sending a link with a free mocap file and some stuff tomorrow. Okay, just checking how I am. How are we doing, guys? We're doing good. Okay, let's jump into Blender. So we've exported out our motion capture. I'm going to go and open up a Blender project file. So I can't say it enough. We have so many tutorials on our YouTube channel. You know, we have our live stream that we do. We have resources that cover everything I'm going to do. So if I'm going a little fast, check our YouTube or come back to this video when we post it up on YouTube tomorrow. So here I have Blender. And I've got my little character here. It's actually a little Sam character. He's wearing a little red beanie even. Can we see the red beanie, please? Oh, look at that cute little red beanie. There we go. But we are going to import our motion capture, and then we're going to use the free Rokoko Blender plugin to retarget that mocap. But before we get started, what's really important for Rokoko motion capture is that we have a character that's actually in a T pose. And if we go to edit mode, you can see that our character is in an A pose. And a great way to fix this is by using a free plugin, the Cats plugin. We just go to start pose mode. And we're just gonna make this arm into a T pose. There's a bunch of different ways to do this in Blender. This is just the way that I do it, but I will apply as rest pose. And now my character is actually in a T pose for its rest pose, which is what we need. So now we're gonna go and we're gonna import some motion capture that we just exported from Rokoko Studio. So here I have it all. And let's go and grab the crazy motions mocap that we did, the first one. Whenever we're importing into Blender, we hit automatic bone orientation, then we hit import. Okay, there we go. Look at that. Let's expand out this timeline a little bit. And if we play, we're going to get a little, that's a little funky thing that might happen with the model, but here you can see our actual motion capture. So it's very easy to retarget this to our model. What we're going to do is just go into the Rokoko plugin. Again, it's free. Check the YouTube for instructions on where to find it, how to use it. It's all pretty simple stuff. We just have to sign in using a Rokoko ID. And then we can go to the retargeting section and we can set the source as our motion capture and the target as our character. And then we're going to do something called build bone list. And so this is a very important part of any motion capture workflow. When we say retargeting motion capture, what we mean is taking mocap animation that is keyframe animation on a skeleton and copying that to our character skeleton, right? But Blender doesn't inherently know how to do that process. So we have to go in, and this is the process in every software, basically. You have to tell Blender, hey, this is the hips of my mocap. This is the hips of my character. This is the spine of my mocap. This is the spine of my character. And that way Blender knows, hey, when I'm retargeting or transferring this motion capture, I know where to put it, right? And thankfully, if you're using, a Mixamo character, it will read pretty much automatically. It'll fill it all out for you. If it isn't automatic, it's really easy to go in and just do this manually, and then you just hit save. You only have to do it one time, and Blender will remember. But in our case, it did it all automatically. And what happens if we hit retarget animation? Oh, hold on. Oh, we had duplicate entries, so it'll tell you if there's a duplicate. So in this case, it did do a duplicate. It's saying spine 2. So there is no spine 3 for our... So we just need to delete that duplicate. So then we hit retarget animation, and what do we got? I'm seeing, we're great to see this process in Cinema 4D from Felix in the chat. Oh, we got this process. Again, it's on our YouTube channel. Cinema 4D is my software, baby. So we definitely have a whole workflow about how to do this in Cinema, in Maya, in Unreal, in Blender. We're working on our Unity one right now. We have a ultimate retargeting series where we go through this for everyone. But look at this. It was that easy. So we got our mocap. It's on our character. And again, if I'm not talking and explaining this, the whole advantage of this motion capture system is that it's quick and it's easy, right? You can just, in 10 minutes, you can jump in a suit, create motion capture, export it, clean it, get it onto a character. onto Instagram, and there we go. Get those likes, baby. So that is the workflow for Blender. Again, we have a great video on our YouTube channel that also goes in how to clean up motion capture in Blender, how to use IK control rigs, and interesting things like that. So I really recommend jumping in and checking that out. Okay, we're going to close down Blender. Now, I'm not going to save. And we are going to open up Unreal. And I'll kind of take this, while this happens, I'm going to take this moment and to kind of remind everyone that if you have Q&A questions, put them in the Q&A section in your Zoom UI. That way I'll be able to see them at the when we do it at the end. We are going to have a raffle. We're going to raffle off some Smartgloves at the end of this. So that's going to be a ton of fun. Stick around for that. You were automatically entered just by signing up for the webinar. And the other thing that's big news is that if you have a Smartsuit, go and update your firmware, because we just released this incredible firmware update. And if you don't have a Smartsuit, we are doing a 20% discount for the first people who use the webinar 20 code. That's a 20% discount on top of bundles on the website. So for example, the glove and suit bundle, the first 50 people who use webinar 20 are going to get 20% off. So if you're thinking about jumping into a suit, now's a great time to do it, because 20% is real, is pretty good. I'm really pumped that we're doing that for all you awesome webinar people who are here. Okay, so we are now in Unreal Engine. So this is Unreal 5.1, and this is the project file that you will get. So when you open it up, this is what you're going to get. I've already loaded in 2 Paragon characters, and Paragon was a game that was made by Epic, and then it kind of failed, and they released these incredible high-quality characters for free. So we can give out this project file, and you can use it for anything you want, commercial or otherwise. And these 2 characters are already set up. And if you want to set up more characters, check out our Unreal tutorial on YouTube. Have you heard me say that recently? Yeah. Okay, so here we are. I've already gone in and I've set up IK rigs, which is how you do retargeting in Unreal for these 2 characters. So let's import our motion capture, and I'll show you that process right now. And we got tutorials on all of this, baby. We got tutorials on all of this. So I've already got some mocap that's in here, but we're gonna do one of the new ones that we did. And let me just check. So, and also it looks like I got my Slack notifications over here, because I can't follow the chat, but a lot of people asking about live streaming. I didn't mention that. In Rokoko Studio, we have an entire live streaming system. So you can, as I mentioned it a little bit before, but you can live stream to like a VTuber or for virtual production, right? You can be live piloting a digital character, and you just need to enable live streaming in Rokoko Studio. So we have a great workflow for that, and also tons of tutorials on YouTube. Okay, so let's import. I'm going to import, which one are we going to do? Elevation tracking. Let's grab elevation tracking. So we're going to go to import animations, import mesh, import all. We're going to get some errors, but that's fine. We don't really care about that. That's gonna always happen. So if we double click, look at this. Look at what we got. Remember this? The mocap. Here was our elevation tracking. Looks great. So if we want to retarget this motion capture, and I'm going to kind of speed through this because, again, we have tutorials, and I know I'm a broken record, but I just want to make sure that it's terrible when there's word vomit. You can't follow what's going on. If you want to follow this, go check out the tutorial. But we're going to go and we're going to create an IK rig asset, and it's going to ask us, where do we want to pull motion capture from? What is the mesh we're going to use? It's this elevation tracking one. We're going to call it elevation tracking IK rig, which is kind of the nomenclature that I follow. We'll open that up. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the hips, set retarget root. Then I can select, so spine to spine 3. And if I right click, I can create new retargeting chains, and it will name it spine. So again, I'm gonna zoom through this a bit. I'm gonna create these, but this is the retargeting system in Unreal. It's much improved from how it was. You can see, you know, I'm not talking about what I'm doing, so you can kind of see how fast this can happen. You essentially select all the bones in each chain, and then you create an IK chain, and then Unreal, similar to what we did in Blender, we need to tell Unreal which bones are which, so it knows how to retarget it. So that was the process. And now if we go into animation, IK retargeter, pick IK rig to copy animation from. Well, we're going to pull animation from elevation tracking. We're going to call this elevation tracking. And if we open this up, we've got our mocap, but I've already created those IK rigs for our Paragon characters. So now under target, I can just go and say, hey, I want my Kalari rig, let's say. Here it is. And I can offset it a little bit so we can kind of see what's going on. And then what we can do is if I double click on this animation right here, here we go. You know, we've got our animation retargeted. Now, obviously something is wrong here. It does not look right. And that's because we need to make sure the starting positions of our two characters match. So this character needs to be in a T-pose. Again, in the new Unreal, it's so much easier to do this. In the IK retargeter panel, you just go to edit mode, and then we can select each joint. So we just need to get the upper arm. Let's get that in a T-pose, buddy. You know what I like. T-pose. And then I'm actually going to do the legs as well, because that will help with any leg slippiness. Just going to do that and that. So you can see, again, it matches our mocap position. Oh. And then the last thing is just usually on forearms in an A pose, they're bent forward slightly. So let's go and just make sure that we can correct that. There we go. And again, this if you think this is tedious, this is much improved from how the system used to be. So this is actually really quick and easy. And again, all of these are kind of situations where you can do this one time and then you don't need to do it again, right? You have a character that's set up and ready to go. And look, this is awesome. So it's ready to go. We didn't do the fingers, but I could have created IK chains for the fingers as well. I just didn't want to do it. But now if we go and we select elevation tracking, we can go export selected animations. I'll select it to my content, or I'll export it to my content folder. And then look what we got here. We have got a super high quality, free character ready to go with some motion capture. He's got a ton of cool skins. Let's grab the rogue skin. And then if we hit play, he's already set up with all of his physics. Like, this is such a awesome way to do mocap. And you can see we have some texture streaming problems. One way to fix that is we go into our little console, type in streaming.pool size, and I'll make that 4096. Force some more memory for our texture. And then there we go. Look at this. This looks awesome. A little wonkiness on the material there, but that's an Unreal problem. Looks great. So this is the free project file that we have that's set up. And why don't we go and do this with the other character as well? So I've already set up both of these characters. Unreal. Yeah, you better prepare those shaders. You're looking crazy right now. But I've set up this character as well. So let's do another IK rig retargeter. This time we're going to pick animation from this other mocap that I already loaded in. Call this running around. I don't know why it has this background. This is probably a case of, like, you know, restart Unreal. They'd like to happen during live streams, you know. But we can offset this character. We can do the same thing that we did before for just making sure that she's in a T-pose. And Let's also grab this lower arm and make sure that this is good. And there we go. Now, if we use this other mocap, we have this running around animation. So let's export this one out. The main content folder, exported. It'll show up right here. Let's drag it in. Looks great. And if we hit play now we got 2 characters with physics running around. And you can tell hopefully how easy this would be to just jump into sequencer, right? And kind of add this to your scene in a way that makes sense. And so this is a great new workflow from Unreal 5. And we have tutorials about all this on our channel. You can see everyone running around, making great use of our new sensor fusion update. Mocap looks really fantastic. Okay. How are we feeling, everyone? Hopefully pretty good. So we have kind of come to the end of our demo. And I'm going to launch another poll because we got some polls we didn't use. But we're going to announce the raffle winner, and then we're going to go through some Q&A questions, so stick around for that. And this is kind of the fun extra part, right? I can jump back into the suit. We can try playing with some live streaming, although I don't think I have a project set up for that. We could jump into Cinema 4D. We could jump into Maya, and we'll kind of keep playing around. But we'll answer some Q&A questions while we do all of that. So in the meantime, I'm going to, let's launch another poll. And what is your preferred 3D software? As we jump into the Q&A, this will be great to know. And looks like we got a lot of Blender, we got a lot of Unreal in the house. Hopefully all of these things were useful to you guys and gals. We got some Maya in the house. We got some iClone. We could jump into iClone. A lot of Blender love. Blender and Unreal. Yeah, which is, Blender's great. And it's a great software to do motion capture work in as well. Okay, so I think I want to get started on some of these Q&A questions, but in the background, if we could find out who the raffle winner is, we can announce that. And then we'll jump in and keep playing around for a little bit. Let me check my little, and again, as we get to the end, 20% discount, webinar 20 on Rokoko.com on top of bundles. Also, we're going to send this video and free project file to you all tomorrow. So look out for that. And yeah, we do a live stream every Thursday, right? So stop by if you got more questions, and let's jump in to some questions. Okay. Is it possible to sew from a nut? And this is where I start butchering names. Anant, is it possible to hold tools like electric drills without causing problems with the IMU? So this is a great question. Actually, any magnetic interference problems that you might run into with Rokoko, which that is a limitation, right? Let's not shy away from talking about limitations. It is essential that you know the limitations of your tools to get the best performance out of them, right? Magnetic interference can be a problem for all inertial motion capture tools, XNs and Perception and us and the rest. But the great thing is for our gloves, we don't actually use any magnetometers in our gloves. It's all IMU based and actually EMF based. So the gloves create an EMF bubble around your hand where they can track in absolute position each sensor in the glove. So that means the gloves are actually the most accurate part of our whole system for now. And it's great because, if you're holding a cell phone, you're holding a drill, it's not going to interfere with that. The suit, it depends on the tool, right? It depends on the environment. Like probably not, I would say, but you never know. The best way to find out is by testing. And also there might be, it's a magnetic interference base. So once you start having power in the mix as well, that can start throwing things off too. But I would have no expectation that it would be a problem. So we're going to do 2 more questions, then we're going to do the live raffle, and then we're going to keep doing questions. Okay. And thank you all for joining as well. This is so fun. We love these things, and we're gonna do more on other topics in the future. From Juan, in facial motion capture, I know you use an iPhone. The question is, can we move eyebrows independently? not closing the eyes, but each eyebrow independently. No, you cannot. It's unfortunate, but we run off the Apple AR kit, which does not have independent brow moving. So we use those 52 blend shapes from the Apple AR kit, and the Apple AR kit does not include. So no Apple AR kit system will include independent eyebrow movement. That's not Live Face. That's not Unreal's solution. Nothing that uses the Apple AR kit, I believe, I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so, will have independent brow movement. So no, you can't, which is unfortunate, but again, it's not, there are limitations, but that's okay. Some from Benjamin, is there a way to track an object that you can interact with? So there is a integration that you can do with Vive trackers. So you could put a Vive tracker on an object. I generally find that workflows like that are more work than they are worth. It depends if you're really willing to tweak that specific workflow. But yeah, it's possible, but it's not like plug and play, and it's not something that we see a lot. And honestly, I just wouldn't even do it unless it's really a part of the system. But it is possible in theory. One more question, then the raffle. Does Rokoko learn the actor with every calibration to improve capture? From Christoph. No, it does not. So the calibration is to let the computer understand what the position of your body is at a specific moment, so that it can match the digital actor to that position. And then, which is why it's important that you do a straight pose. And we have instructions for how to do it in our onboarding series, feet under the hips, gripping your hands on the side of your body. The closer you are to that pose, the more accurate your motion capture will be. And you can also do some things like tweaking measurements of the digital actor to get closer and make it higher fidelity. But no, there's not like every calibration. It's not like learning right here. And then we are going to announce the raffle. So the winner of the Smartgloves, and thank you all for coming, and we'll do more raffles in the future. But the winner today is Tom Funk. So congratulations, Tom Funk. You're getting some Smartgloves sent out to you. Check our YouTube channel for tutorials on how to use them, baby. But that's great. Congratulations. And I'll also mention that we are currently running a Made with Rokoko, #MadeWithRokoko contest on our social channels. So all you need to do is, if you make anything using Rokoko tech, that could be free AI motion capture stuff. It could be using the motion library. It could be using your suit or hardware if you have it. Tag it Made with Rokoko, and we give out prizes at the end of each month on that. So March's theme is nostalgia. So make a nostalgia post and you can win some stuff. So the other thing I want to talk about is the product board. So we'll send a link. We'll put a link to this in the description of the video on YouTube tomorrow, or when it goes up. But you can also find this on our website, or even if you just type in product board Rokoko into Google. But here you can see all of the features that have been requested and seconded by our community and also by us. And if we go to releases, you can see what each new version of the software, what each new version of the firmware added, which is really great. You can see that we had this huge, we did an export, we improved the exporting. We have a thing to help with like devices that are having problems. You can export with root motion now in the newest release, really exciting. So you can actually export and separate out root motion to do crowd simulations or to do weird things in Unreal. You can check the in development board, which is, we have retargeting, for example, to custom characters in development. So that means you're going to be able to bring custom characters into Rokoko Studio, do your retargeting there, and then go to Blender or Unreal, excuse me. So really exciting stuff. And you can see all this smoothing filter we're working on. This will be awesome. And then we have ideas right here. You can add new ideas and requests of things you want. And you can also vote on ones that are already there. You can see some of the popular ones we have. So we're working, this is kind of what we see, and we see the community, we see the requests, and we have priorities that we're trying to work on that will make the hardware better, but also like we really value all this feedback, and we take it seriously, and we make product roadmap changes based on it. So it's a great way to kind of see, the state of what the company's working on. So again, the poll, it looks like most people are in Blender and Unreal. We got some Unity, we got some Maya, some iClone, some Cinema, but Blender and Unreal are the vast majority, it looks like. Okay. So again, congratulations to Tom Funk. I'll change this view up a little bit. I don't know. Something more cool. Oh, you know what we could do? Here, let's try, this is something fun you can do. Let's grab our character here. And I'm going to create a camera cine actor. I will jump into that camera. And then if we do this, check this out. I'll exit out of that camera. I'm going to give a little POV here, which I think is always kind of a cool look and something interesting you can do with motion capture. And if we make this camera have a really wide FOV and we drag it onto our running around motion capture and we parent it to the head, guess what we can do now? We can play and then we can jump in to that camera. Oh, it doesn't see. Oh, I have to change it to movable, I believe. Oh, it is movable. I don't know. Okay, maybe that doesn't work. We'll just keep playing in the. We'll just keep playing this scene in the meantime. Looks cool. Okay, so let's keep answering some questions, and then maybe we'll jump back into Unreal or another program. So Daniel Stone. Can you use the Smartgloves independently? Do they only control the hands, or do you get arm movement to the shoulder joints? So what you get with the Smartgloves independently is arm movement to the elbow. The elbows are locked in space because the last sensor in the chain is this wrist sensor. So it knows kind of where it's rotating from this point, but it doesn't go to the shoulder. Again, these sensors don't know where they are in global space. For the Smartgloves, they actually know where they are exactly relative to the hub. So that's why you get really accurate tracking, because the hub knows exactly where that sensor is relative to itself, but not in space. So I can't do an IK rig, which would move my whole shoulder. So unfortunately not, but there are workflows for that sort of thing. And you can also merge finger data into body data if you want to. Okay. Duncan, would it be possible to please demonstrate you know what? Let's jump back into the suit. Great question, Duncan. Question from Duncan. Hold on, I'm going to save this all so that we could jump back into this. But let's jump back into the suit. Would it be possible to please demonstrate in the suit a couple of moves that you are particularly proud of? Something that was previously unreliable or difficult before the most recent update? This is a great question. It would also be great to see an example of something that is not possible or you feel does not work well, purely to understand the limits of the system as compared to the full volume capture, as you said. Man, Duncan, a great question. Let's do it. So really the big improvement with the most recent update was, I think, walking around mostly. As silly as that sounds and as basic as that sounds, it really did a lot to improve the quality of walking and running. It was good before, but now it sings. So that is the biggest thing. Let me put my gloves on here. And then something that we struggle with is that, we've talked about how the software really needs to know where your feet are. It needs to understand the foot contact with the ground. And that is the basis upon which we build all of the motion capture, is knowing where the feet are. So if you're hanging in space, it's not going to like that. Or if you take your feet off the ground for a prolonged period of time, it's not going to like that either, because it thinks that you just kind of disappeared. So that's one limitation. There are ways around that by using things like treadmill mode. But that is kind of one limitation. And then things like, and then the other limitation is just it's inertial motion capture. So there's going to be cleanup for very specific movements. If you're on a phone or you're typing on a keyboard and you have a close-up in a CG shot where it needs to be hitting each key exactly, that is going to need some editing, right? Because it's not, your hands aren't going to be in exactly the right spot. And because it's such a close-up shot, that kind of really incredible accuracy is always going to require a little bit of cleanup. So that's kind of a limitation as well. But yeah, the suit is looking great. So we can, let me do another recording. And I mean, I'm just proud of how well the suit performs. I mean, I think it's just everything is looking better with this firmware update. Again, I drank the Kool-Aid a long time. I was a customer before I was creative director for Rokoko. I bought a suit before I joined the company, and so it was already great. Now it's just so much, it's even better. So it's hard to say that in a way that doesn't make how it was before sound not good, because I think that was fantastic, but it's like we're really starting to see some of these cumulative increases in quality, which is so awesome. Let me just, I'm just gonna do recording here, right here. Oh, I didn't hit play or record. Here we go. I mean, I just think running around, I mean, that is like, this is also why it's so fun to do our live stream, you know? I think there's nothing that kind of shows off what's possible in the suit more than just like seeing it in real time. And like, look, there are problems, right? So here's a problem. This could be interpreted as a negative of the suit for sure. You need to go in and do a little cleanup to fix things like this sometimes. You can see this. Look at this. This karate jump looks terrible. That's because my foot comes off the ground here, and we needed to just let the software know. So in 7 seconds, you know, that looks fine. So we fixed that. So, I mean, that's like a negative. You will need to do cleanup when you're moving around like that, but I mean, it just looks so good. So thankfully, it's one of those things I think that can speak for itself. Okay, let's keep answering questions while we're rocking the suit. Jump up here. You can see me. Maybe we can turn face capture back on. Okay, okay, well, sorry. So we got more questions here. Let's do it. If I have my PC in my bedroom and want to do performance capture in my living room, would it be a good idea to place a dedicated router near me and have it connected to my PC via Ethernet cable? Trying to figure out a solution other than having to purchase a laptop. So yes, yeah, that's a great solution, right? You could put the router in your living room. Then you could run your computer to the router via Ethernet, and that way the computer is connected to the router really well, even though there's walls, right? Because that's what you're trying to solve for, is walls, concrete, weird pipes in the walls. Like, if you have an Ethernet cable going to the router in one room to your computer in the other room, then your computer will have strong Wi-Fi signal to the router, and the router will be right next to your performing space, which will also give good quality. And that does matter. 90% of all the performance issues that I've ever found or dealt with from customers and things like that is because you have poor Wi-Fi signal. And using office Wi-Fi, using apartment Wi-Fi that your roommate is watching streaming 8K Ultra HD videos on, that is shrinking the bandwidth, and that's therefore shrinking the quality. So it's super important to have a dedicated router. It's important to have one in your room. It's not necessary, but if I want to travel, I can just grab my router, throw it in a bag, grab my suit, grab my laptop, and like, I have total control over my mocap environment, which is really important. So that's why I really do it. Okay, Jose, can we see the gloves? How well can you touch each finger? So we might need to adjust that a little bit. And also what we might need to do is, if we go into our Yeah, so one thing that we just added as well is that you want to, in addition to adding your height to your actor profile, each person who creates motion capture needs an individual actor profile. Well, hey, remove. And it needs your height, and that helps us get better motion capture. But now you can also add your hand length and hand width. So I actually know mine. I didn't put them in this one, but I believe it's this. So let's save that and then see if it looks any better. So not really, but you are getting more accurate motion capture. I think this is like a really good example of how good it is, right? I'm running my thumb over and like there's intersection, but you're getting all the movement, and it would be really easy to change this. And for detailed shots on hands, like you will need to change the positioning, right? Like I'm touching, well, that's good. I'm touching my palm, but here, if I hold my phone down here, like I need to move my hand. It's one of the limitations. You're going to need to do cleanup for very specific things, but we have so many free resources for how to do it. It's actually so easy to do that it's very achievable from anyone. And again, we always gear things towards absolute beginners. I'm a dummy. I try to make my tutorials for dummies, right? In the worst case scenarios, so that you have a way to move forward when something doesn't seem to make sense. And the live stream, right? You can always hop on the live stream and get advice and stuff on there too. Okay. In live streaming, how do you avoid drift over time if you stream for an hour or two? So this is from Nathan. The way you do that in live streaming, if you want a ballerina running around on a soundstage for an hour live, it's not going to work. That's like a major limitation of the suit, is that for translation over long periods of time, you're going to get drift. You need to do those recalibrations. But if you're a VTuber and your VTubing setup is you in front of a camera and you don't need to move, you can always just turn on treadmill, and I'm not going to drift at all. It doesn't matter what's happening. My character is staying locked into the center of the origin, which means in Unreal, my character is staying right in front of their desk, right in front of the nice backdrop you have, right? You have one camera. The character is not going to move. So I've done this for an hour or two in character with Unreal running, and it's totally doable. So I can't move around my space, right? If I wanted to be able to move around my digital space, I would need to turn off treadmill mode, and then I would need to eventually do calibrations, because over 30 minutes, I'm going to start drifting. Or if I start doing, well, it's our new firmware update kind of made everything, you can't break it anymore. But it's possible that if I did weird things, no. Well, if I hang my feet off the ground, nope. Okay. Well, the suit's just amazing and you can't break it. So no, you'll run into problems, and treadmill mode will fix it for things like VTubing. Okay. I'm not sure to well understand. What was that question? There's a question. There's a question about, okay, I saw it and then it disappeared. And it was about having your feet on camera. So again, for the suit, you don't need any cameras. I don't need a camera at all. I have no camera with this system. This video of me is just for the stream. For Rokoko Video, our free AI motion capture tool, where you upload a video of yourself to the cloud for it to process and give you motion capture for free, that needs to be your whole body in the frame. So I think that was maybe answered by someone. Landon, how do we animate a quadruped with the suit? Do we need to put the animal in an A pose or a T pose? So yeah, you would need to have the animal be in a T pose if you want it copying your motions, right? A quadruped, a lot of their legs don't move the same way that ours do. A lot of them bend the other way, for example. The back legs might bend in, back instead of forward. Anyway, there can be a lot of problems with quadrupeds. But it's totally possible to do like velociraptors. That's a much better one. And I've done that before, because you can kind of do that yourself and, and act that out. Gorilla is like a really easy one to do, because you can you can kind of do that, and you can even get extenders on your arms so that you can, run around as a gorilla. A dog is difficult just because their arms and legs are really different sizes than ours, and we just don't run that way, right? You can I'll do it here. Let's do a recording. Okay, this is my dog. But it's gonna end up looking more like a gorilla because we just don't have the same proportions of a dog. You can see. I mean, so there are things you could do in post. We saw like a great example of the goat simulator game, like using a suit. So there are things that you can do in post to kind of play with that and tweak it, but quadrupeds are tough. How do you deal with 3D terrain that's not an even plane? So rocks of different sizes, you could use that elevation tracking filter that we went over earlier. You would just need to key them in for the size of the rocks, and you could tweak it and get it better. You're jumping over rocks and things like that. But one limitation is it's really more geared towards an even plane. So you might need to do things like, you can do clever things in Houdini to have a character follow geometry or things like that. So that's kind of how you deal with that usually. BT Darmstead, is there any plans for a pelvis smoothing filter? I've noticed the pelvis sometimes has a life of its own. So we do have plans for a smoothing filter. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's on the product board that we went over earlier. So there will be a smoothing filter at some point. And the whole goal, again, with Rokoko Studio, the new version of Rokoko Studio, is that eventually we want to open up the back end as much as possible, give you control over the animation tracks and things like that if you want to change things that really go deep, right? Does elevation tracking use some sort of special sensors in the suit? It is using the capabilities of the Smartsuit Pro 2 sensors, and then it's using those enhanced capabilities to kind of do some software stuff in the back end. So it does need the Smartsuit Pro 2 sensors in the way that we've done, that we've created it, because that was how we had to do it. From Benjamin, how powerful a machine do you need to run live mocap for a VTuber setup? So you don't need a very powerful machine to record motion capture. This I've done on a MacBook Air, right? You don't need very powerful to run Unreal or Unity at the same time and have a detailed environment in Unreal. You're going to need a better system. I have a 2080, an RTX 2080, GeForce RTX 2080 that I love, and it works great for me. It's time for an upgrade, but I've been able to do all this stuff using a 2080 and then a lot of other a good processor and stuff. The GPU is really important in Unreal. Okay, how we doing? Rokoko team? We feeling good? What am I forgetting to mention? The product board. Okay, so this is something too. We get a lot of questions about Smartsuit Pro 3. There is no plans for a Smartsuit Pro 3. We have no plans for that. The plan is to, again, continue improving the hardware that we have. Making another suit, I can't even imagine. No, that's not in the plan. So, feel good about your Smartsuit Pro 2. We are working on more mocap things, and we'll always continue playing with new hardware, and we might have new releases, but the Smartsuit Pro 2 is our flagship product, and it will remain such. And the whole idea is that it is because we're focusing so much on firmware and software level improvements for the hardware we already have out in the world, right? Dustin, where can we obtain the assets that are mentioned in this stream? So we're going to be sending you a free Unreal project file that will have those characters in it. But on the Unreal Marketplace, if you type in Paragon, they have all those Paragon characters for free for anyone. You can download it. Just type in Paragon. It's free epic content. Is there any possibility to use the camera tracking in real time? So that is a goal. We do want to get to a place where we're going to be using the camera tracking in real time. We just released this free AI motion capture tool that just uses the camera, right? It's not in real time. It needs to process, and then it gets sent to you into Rokoko Studio. But yeah, the goal is to get to real time. So it's on the roadmap eventually. I mean, we just released a tool, so, we're dealing with that right now. Is it possible to improve capture data with additional markers in the body? It is not. No. Good Wi-Fi signal in an environment that doesn't have a ton of magnetic interference, and you're golden. Again, most typical office environments you're going to be fine in. Magnetic interference really rears its ugly head when you are in a Faraday cage, or you're on sometimes on sound stages, like for music venues, which is unfortunate, but it's true. It's one of the limitations, right? There's a lot of weird audio equipment running through those sound stages, and sometimes that can be a problem. So that's like where I see it the most. Otherwise, usually it's weak Wi-Fi signal, and if you just get a dedicated router, it'll make it so much better. I want to capture ice skating on a rink. Do you think there's an obligation on the suit I need to consider? Absolutely. So the suit doesn't like sliding feet that much. I mean, you could jump in and see what it looks like. I've never done ice skating with it. I also have never done rollerblading. That would be interesting. But what you could do is just turn on treadmill mode. If you turn on, so doing it this way, which would be ideal, is you would be ice skating and it would just be tracking you perfectly. I mean, that's sliding and it looks pretty good. So you'd have to test. But if that did not work, which is a very real possibility, what you would do is you would just turn on treadmill, and you would have to hand key the movement of the skater. But because it's skating, I don't actually think that would be a really big problem, right? You could do ice skating that way. So that's how I would tackle that. My elbows feel inverted in a way yours aren't, and my knees feel biased to the center. Is this an issue with the sensors in the body? So the position of the sensors does not matter beyond that they have to be attached to the joint, right? Your joints don't actually flex. Like your joints flex, I'm sorry, but your limbs don't. So as long as the sensor is on that limb, like on my forearm, it's quite high, but it's still picking up all my forearm motions. I would, if you have, this is from Nathan Bush, if you have gone in and done advanced measurements, kill those on your actor profile, go back to just doing your height. And then if you are just doing your height, try playing with the advanced measurements. And then beyond that, make sure you've got a strong Wi-Fi signal. And then if you've only done it in one area, maybe it is magnetic interference and you might need to try another area. Try turning off your Bluetooth keyboard, things like that. But yeah, straight pose, arms to the side, and then contact Rokoko, support at Rokoko.com if it still has problems. What's the integration like for dance video data to Marvelous Designer and Cinema 4D? I mean, it's fun. We have tutorials for retargeting your motion capture data in Cinema 4D. So what you would do is you would bring in your mocap data, retarget it to a character, export an alembic out to Marvelous Designer, do your cloth sim, bring the cloth sim back into Cinema, and it should all work. I do this all the time. And, the workflow is still retargeting. It's always retargeting. How do you get your mocap onto your character, right? And we have tutorials going over all of that. But it's its own thing. It's a whole niche of its own. It's not that hard, but it will take you 5 minutes to retarget that, right? So follow our tutorials, and it's a pretty good workflow. Are you planning from Yakumo? I love that name, Yakumo. That's what I want to name my kid. But my wife's not going to let me because it's too awesome, and we're dumb Americans. Are you planning to create an extra sensor that can be attached to object props to track the mocap So we kind of talked about this earlier. You can use a Vive tracker. We have an integration with Vive that we're going to be getting back online, and is doable right now, but is kind of tricky. So in theory, you can. We do not recommend it because it just adds more chaos into a workflow that does not need it. And the honest thing is, our system really isn't built for tracking. So you can do it, but are you adding more work for yourself on the back end? I tend to think so. I would just rather hand key the soccer ball as for the kick, as opposed to like getting a Vive tracker, setting up a volume for the Vive tracker. Then I can't, or if it's like, if I'm holding a sword, I just parent it to the wrist. I do that all the time. It's easy. So I do that all on the back end. I think you can get ahead of yourself in virtual production for our suit. Generally with virtual production, it's not something you can just jump into easily. And by virtual production, I mean things like live piloting of characters in virtual environments with a virtual camera, with virtual props. You can do it, but it's a process, right? And then so that's something to know going in. A lot of questions about tracking objects. Okay, I think we're gonna answer a few more, and then we'll probably call it. It's been a lot of fun. But let me see if where we got our good. Let me get some questions. Do you need to retarget in Unreal? Can't you just export the mocap as a Mixamo FBX from Rokoko Studio that import the FBX onto the character mesh? Generally, no. There's some weird naming stuff that can happen with Mixamo, I find. You could try it, and it might work. Then for some characters, it might not. I find that the best thing to do is that IK retargeting workflow. But yeah, in theory, maybe it would work. You just would have to make sure that when Mixamo exports your character, it's not like sometimes it names the skeleton Mixamo rig 1 : and then hips. Sometimes it's Mixamo rig : hips. Sometimes it's something totally different : hips, and like that will mess up the retargeting, the automatic retargeting. Nice. Okay. After sometimes about 15 or 30 minutes, the feet sometimes merge and need to be repositioned. Is there any other way to overcome this problem? Strong Wi-Fi, keep your feet on the ground and don't move them. The more you move them, the more opportunity you have for errors. But no, generally, like over 15 or 30 minutes, it's totally expected that you would need to do a calibration to fix any drift. You might have more drift in your environment that's making it slightly worse. Upgrade to the new firmware, because that should really help. It specifically combats magnetic interference. That's what it's helping to fix. But other than that, like use treadmill mode. That should also help with that. Could the suit operate inside a Faraday cage, assuming the router was in the cage? No, no. Surrounding the suit by metal is going to create a pretty wonky. It's not that it's a Faraday cage. I mean, maybe this is what a Faraday cage is doing, but it's that the magnetic. I'm not a scientist, so I don't actually know, but no, you'd have problems. Don't surround yourself with metal. That will cause problems. It's not that you're contained with metal. It's that metal is so close to you and is everywhere. If you're in a Faraday cage that's like massive, it wouldn't matter. It's that, but if you're surrounded by metal like everywhere, that would be a problem. Okay, I think I'm getting to the most of the questions here. Are we planning to? Oh, okay. What do we got? I have ceiling speakers in my studio. Will that cause a dramatic amount of interference from anonymous? Only one way to tell. It shouldn't. It could, and there's really only one way to tell. You can try using a magnetometer app on your phone. They're pretty unreliable though. It's just one of the limitations of the suit is that the only way to see how the suit will perform in an environment is that you need to test it. And it's possible there could be something in that environment that might make the suit perform really wonkily. And you just have to move environments or remove the speakers, right? There's some hard limits that you run into for magnetic interference, and it just is the way that it is, right? You can't fix it if there's pipes in your walls that like you can't remove. The solution there is go to a new location, and that's a limitation of the suit. That being said, I have speakers and it's fine. So maybe I wouldn't have them blasting or just on, have power running to them, but it should be fine. You never know though. There's no guarantee. That's why we have a 30-day money back guarantee. You got to test it. And if it didn't work, you can always send it back. Do you recommend Blender Unreal for full retargeting, including facial motion capture? Easy question, easily Blender. Unreal is doing great, and they have a much better retargeting workflow than they ever have in the past, but it's still just not made for retargeting. It's not made for modeling. There are things that Unreal is not the best at still, and I think every tool for every situation, Blender is going to be better because you just have more control. It's built more for animation. The best workflow is Maya for retargeting. Maya has the best tools for doing mocap retargeting, then Blender, because of all the amazing community plugins that are available and interesting things that are happening with that community who are sharing all their content. Maya users don't tend to be the most internet savvy people. I'm a Maya user, but like it skews more studio, less flexibility, less tutorially. So Maya, Blender, then way down here is maybe then iClone underneath Blender, and then everything else is down here. Tougher to do retargeting, but possible. We have a series that covers retargeting in every software, except for Unity, which is coming. Peric, I asked this before, but cycling or biking, motion tracking with a metal bike, that would probably be tough. Yeah, I think you would probably get some wonkiness from like an exercise bike. That is going to be weird. Maybe it would work. Only one way to find out. Some people have awesome results on treadmills. Some treadmills mess with the suit. You know, it depends. If it's a standard bike that's on a rack, that's not an exercise bike, that I think would probably be fine. An exercise bike that's like plugged in and is massive and heavy and like made of like steel and iron, and that's not what you want. I think like a aluminum framed bike. I don't know anything about biking. That would probably be fine. My workflow is Maya Houdini. What do I need to remember when using the suit for the first time? Strong Wi-Fi signal. You have a strong Wi-Fi router. Record motion capture in Rokoko Studio. Take 30 seconds to clean up the mocap footsteps. If you're doing walk cycles, make sure that you're walking forward. Z positive. D is for Houdini for the crowd system. If you're using mocap to create dynamic crowds and things like that, your loop needs to be moving forward in Z. I'm almost positive. So that's it to know. And watch our tutorials on Maya. Maya is my favorite mocap workflow. It is the most professional one in my opinion. So you're on a good track for that. So easy to do cleanup, things like that. That is a good idea, Mark Proctor, to do custom naming. That should go on the product board. Okay, so I think we're going to jump. I'm seeing a couple of things in the chat. Upkeep and tips to keep your suit in good condition. You can take all the sensors out of the suit so you can wash the suit. I do that like once every 6 months. I don't do it that often because it's just me using it. For COVID and stuff, if you were sharing in production, you probably want to wash it to make people feel better. You can't wash the gloves. You can wipe them down with a damp towel to clean them and some antiseptic, but you can't take the sensors out of the gloves. You can take them out of the suit. So I would do that. And then if you do damage the suit during production, you can always get in contact with us and we can send you a replacement wire or sensor and get you back up and running. But during production, the suits are pretty durable. That especially for the second suit. We made it more durable. So that was part of the refresh. The refresh with Smartsuit Pro 2 was like making the sensors more durable. So it should be fine. If you have problems, support at rokoko.com. Yes, and you can book a one-on-one live demo with our team. You can schedule it right now on rokoko.com. You can ask them any questions you want. We have fantastic product specialists who will help you with your specific workflows. It's a investment, right? The suits are very cheap, relative, but it's a couple $1,000s. So it's real money, and I always recommend booking a one-on-one demo because, again, we want to ensure you have the best experience. And maybe this suit is not the right fit for you. And it's really important to know that now as opposed to after. So book a demo, ask those questions. They will show you things. They will talk to you about problems. And we have an amazing Discord where you can ask questions as well, or join our live stream, right? And I can answer more questions there. So we are going to, I think we're going to call it. So this has been great, everyone. We did just over an hour and a half. Thank you for joining. Again, you'll be getting an email tomorrow with, the video and the free project file and discount codes. If you're interested in buying a suit, webinar 20 is the discount code. The first 50 orders will be getting 20% off. Really a great, if you're curious, if you're thinking about buying, now's the time to buy for sure. But we will do this again. We have more webinars coming up. We're going to do them at least once a quarter, maybe twice, and we'll have discounts and stuff, but maybe not for 20%. So this is a good one. We also have the Made with Rokoko contest running. Upload your Rokoko content to socials and tag Made with Rokoko, and we're going to send you free stuff if you're automatically entered in to a raffle. The theme this week is nostalgia this month. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We're going to call it again. Thank you, everyone, again. Liza, Lisa, thank you for coming. Suzanne, Nicholas, all you wonderful people in the chat. As I said before, we're going to do this again. And stay safe, stay dry. It's raining like it is for me. And come stop by the stream on Thursdays at 11 a.m. on YouTube. It's a lot of fun, and you can ask any other questions you want, or have me do, the Macarena again, or twerk, or whatever it is you people want me to do, I'll do it for you. So it's a lot of fun. Okay. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Be well. Got to figure out how to stop it. Okay, bye.